right, welcome back, and we have another great person on the bench. That doesn't mean that if I don't say that, we haven't had a great person on the bench, but we do have a great person on the bench, Bridget Tingley, and I first met Bridget and her husband volunteering here at the Rescue Mission. I think it was probably the crossing that I met you.
That's right.
And we just had this great conversation, and one of the things that I still think about with that conversation is your heart and you and your husband's heart and just how much this meant to you to be able to volunteer. So if I back up the bus a little bit, what made you decide to volunteer at Denver Rescue Mission?
Yes. So Dennis, we started as donors in 2019. I was driving somewhere and there was a radio ad on CPR about the turkey drive for the Denver Rescue Mission, and they shared a story of somebody experiencing homelessness and how the circumstances around their homelessness really had nothing to do with that person themselves.
Yeah.
It just touched me. It just hit me that people could experience homelessness and it really not be their fault. So I looked into the mission and I just started donating to the mission. I feel like nothing that I have is truly my own. I just want to be giving what I can give. So Iris, my donor relation person, she would send her emails, her monthly emails, and she called me probably 2 years later and we had a phone conversation and I just broke down in tears about what it meant to me to be able to support the mission and the work that is being done at the mission. So she invited me to the Christmas banquet at Lawrence Street to actually serve the guests. And that experience just rocked me. I had experienced nothing like it. And I wanted to do more. So starting that January, my husband and I, we started showing up for the monthly Pathways of Hope volunteer, serve dinner. And then from January to June, we did it once a month. And then that summer, I was just thinking we just need to be more intentional with our time. So by October, we were coming weekly.
Yeah.
And then when January hit the next year, it was just whenever I could get to the mission and show up and serve.
And you're still volunteering a lot.
Still volunteering
Maybe
a lot.
it's not weekly, but you guys are still volunteering a lot.
So I actually, I just finished, I was a change maker at Lawrence Street.
Okay.
And I did a 3-month commitment with them.
Wow.
I was so sorry to leave. The things that I took away from there, I had no expectation that I would receive everything that I experienced while I was there. From the relationships with the chefs in the kitchen to relationships just from saying hello to the guests that I was able to see.
Yeah. And that's like a common theme, whether we're volunteering or we're working. So often it feels like we're getting way more than we're giving. Right. And there was somebody else that was on the show earlier that was a volunteer. And she's like, we come there, we serve for a couple of hours and we leave just full. And then I was talking to one of the guys from the Rockies, to Jim, and because they come down occasionally, and he said, sometimes it's like, oh, wow, we have to go do that. And then we get there and go, oh my gosh, we're so blessed to be able to do this. And that's I think what happens when we volunteer and we give to someone else that's in need.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's never been a time where I showed up to serve that I didn't leave full and so happy that I spent that time doing that.
Yeah. So what would you say if there's somebody that may be watching this now, or they might watch it, who knows when, and they have considered volunteering at Denver Rescue Mission, but the questions in their mind are keeping them from volunteering. So it might be, is it safe? Will anything happen to me? Things like that. So what would you say to the person that might have some hesitation to come volunteer?
Absolutely. I would say contact Kennedy, and I would just come for one shift.
Yeah.
I would say just show up. It's very safe. The volunteers that serve in the kitchens are in the kitchens, and there are doors that are between the guests and the volunteers. And I have not experienced a situation where I did not feel completely safe. Like the chefs know what's going on. There's CLCs out there on the floor that are making sure that everything is the way that it should be. So it's a very safe place to serve.
Yeah. And you've mentioned the chefs a couple of times. So, oftentimes I think the stereotype, right, is if it's a rescue mission or a shelter or the old, I hate this phrase, the soup kitchen, and they picture like, this guy with a big long beard, and the beard is hanging in the soup, and he's stirring the soup, and he's serving that and stale bread. Is that a good description of?
Absolutely not.
Okay, talk more about that.
So the chefs at all the locations are extremely talented. They work with the donations, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's 90% of the food that they're working with is donated.
Right.
So the MOC will drop the food off for them weekly, and then they will create recipes and menus based on the ingredients that they have. And I've seen them do some really incredible things.
Yeah.
The food is fantastic. They make sure that the variety of the food, the starches, the vegetables, the proteins are all being hit so that the guests are being served a quality meal just like you would eat at home or out somewhere.
Yeah, and sometimes better than what I would eat at home.
Better.
Nothing against my wife, because she's amazing, but yeah, sometimes, right? It's like, wow, that's amazing. And but that's an important part of our ministry, right? Because you can't, we mentioned this earlier, you can't think about leaving homelessness. You can't think about getting into a program or getting a job or something like that if you haven't eaten in a couple of days and you don't know where your next meal is coming from, or if you did eat, it was something that wasn't healthy, something that wasn't good enough, right? And I know I was meeting with somebody from the city a couple of months ago, and I said, do you know what the largest restaurant in town is? And they're thinking and they're thinking and they're like, no, what is it? And I'm like, it's the Denver Rescue Mission. They're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, show me another restaurant that does 1.2 million meals a year, right? There's not another restaurant that does that.
No.
So that's quantity. But then what we're talking about is the quality,
Exactly.
right?
That's
is
right.
the quality is there and people are getting healthy, balanced meals, and they can come back for seconds. And I've served sometimes, and I've seen people come back 3 or 4 times.
Sure.
And I think, wow, how great that they are coming back and eating until they're full with really healthy food.
Absolutely.
And then that can lead to this conversation, whether it's with one of our staff or a volunteer, a conversation of how did you get here? What are you willing to do?
Right. Right.
Yeah. So I think everybody should volunteer here.
I agree with you, Dennis. Absolutely. Absolutely. I keep trying to tell more people and trying to bring more people so that they can experience it.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there a story that has happened when you've been volunteering that has really touched your heart?
There are lots.
Okay.
But there was one recently.
We do have tissues back there if we need them for you and me both.
Last week, I was finishing up Changemaker, and 2 of the guests that one I don't know his name, but he's Scottish, and I do try to catch his eye.
Yep.
So to me, showing up to serve is to serve and is to see them and is to love them. For me, that's what I'm
that's right.
achieving. And just to back up real quick, we talk about like what we get out of it. And I think a lot of times there's a hesitation about should we feel this way?
Yeah.
And I think absolutely we're humans.
Yeah.
We're wired to feel that.
Right.
They're receiving as well. So it's not one-sided.
Right.
So I think it's so important to show up to
Yeah.
get something out of it as well, because then that will translate into other areas of your life as well.
Yes.
Soften us a little bit.
Yes.
And have experiences that we may not had because we weren't in that mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I think you're so right, because it's so easy, particularly now in our culture, right? It's so easy to see something on TV or to drive to a game and be walking past somebody experiencing homelessness that may shout something inappropriate, or to see people on the corner. And it's so easy to become jaded and judgmental.
Sure.
Right. And one of my favorite shows is Ted Lasso.
Okay.
And I love the quote that says, be curious, not judgmental.
I like that.
Right. And I think there's so much wisdom to that. And that's sort of what you're talking about is it's okay that we give and we feel the impact of that gift because they are receiving and giving at the same time.
Absolutely.
Right. I mean,
Absolutely.
sometimes when I'm serving, sometimes I'll see somebody in some of the worst of circumstances, right? Even in the homelessness space, right? I was talking earlier about a gentleman that I always think about who at Lawrence Street, missing both legs, in a wheelchair, PTSD, and yet he'll roll through the line and he'll look up at whoever's serving, and as genuinely as possible, he will say, thank you. And sometimes it's thank you, have a blessed day, or God bless you, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, how often do I forget to have that kind of gratitude, right? And we get to be a part of that.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, where do you go from here? Like you're already this volunteer, super volunteer. You know, how long are you going to keep volunteering with us?
And as long as I can, Dennis. As long as I can.
That was a trick
Absolutely.
question, so it was the right answer. Yeah, go on though. Go on.
No, I honestly, I want to just continue to show up. I absolutely love what the mission is doing. I love that each location is slightly different.
Yeah.
Today, because I had a little bit of gap time between the end of work day and coming here, I went over and served dinner at 48th.
Oh, you did.
And 48th is so different from Lawrence Street.
Right.
But it's
right.
so good for me to get in there because it's just a different, the men have a slightly different mindset there because their circumstances are a little bit different
Right.
than what we see at Lawrence Street.
Right.
And so I'm trying to, it's a community and I
Yeah.
want to know faces. And if I
Yeah.
can learn names, then I will.
Yeah.
That's not always a thing, right?
Right.
One
Right.
of the things I've learned about serving is that you can come in with a plan, but God will tell you
That's right.
how that service, sometimes
Yeah.
serving is showing up and it's interacting with a brand new volunteer.
Right.
And you don't get any guest interaction.
Yeah.
And that was really hard for me at first.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I want them to feel seen. That's
Yeah.
so important.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so to not be able to be looking at them,
Mhm.
but to be, on the back pouring
Yeah.
milk with a new volunteer who's
Yeah.
just Googled
Yeah.
Denver Rescue Mission,
Yeah.
and give them information, and then to see them coming back is
Right.
so cool.
It really is, and we don't ever know what God is trying to do in and through us,
Exactly.
right? So sometimes when you go volunteer, it might be for that guest that now he's seen and heard because of your interaction with him. But it could be for that first-time volunteer who's nervous or may have had a life event that they were unexpected that's really rocking them, and for them to have someone like you or any of us to just be a light to help shine in their darkness
Right.
is really important. I think so. The trick is we have to go where God calls us to go and do what he calls us to do. And sometimes we don't see the instant results of that, like with this volunteer that you were next
Exactly.
to.
Exactly.
But the fact that I think that we show up and, myself and the staff, we get paid to do this. And most of us would probably do it even if we didn't get paid. But the fact that we have so many volunteers, I think we have like almost 15,000 people that volunteer.
Wow.
And think about that, 15,000 people in our community that say, I'm going to give up of my time, which none of us have enough time,
Yeah.
and I'm going to go and I'm going to give back. And I know for us at Denver Rescue Mission, we are incredibly humbled by that and incredibly grateful for all of our volunteers. This isn't a cliche, it's true. We couldn't do it without you. We couldn't do it without our volunteers. So we're so grateful. So thank you for volunteering.
Thank you, Dennis.
And guess what? We made it. Like, we're at the end of this. So, yeah, thank you so much for just coming out and joining us on the bench, too.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dennis.
All right. And we're going to go to a break before we have our next person.